catch you back.
Hey, Mark.
Hey guys, so looks like we got a pretty good turnout so far, and I've been hearing some great stuff from Rory already, one of our special guests today, and another special guest online already, Guillaume. Paulo's there, so really glad to see everybody. I just wanted to set the tone for everybody here. We're going to start the workout when the countdown timer gets to 0. It's a 50-minute workout, so we're going to go from 12:10 till 1 o'clock, and then we could stop it off at 1 o'clock so everybody can get back to their day-to-day activities. Or in Rory's case, he can drink some extra wine when Paulo doesn't see him anymore on screen. So thanks so much for joining in today, guys. Today we have the ISN-PW Pro Challenge #1. And what we're going to be doing today is 10 times 30-second efforts where you guys are going to try to maximize your power output across all 10 of those using a scoring system I'll explain to you. The good news is we have more than two, well, we have at least 2 participants, Guillaume and Rory, that have already done this session, and they can explain to you their experience. And I know many of you are going to be doing it for the second time, or some of you will be doing it for the second time, like Big Nick and J-Train, always gluttons for punishment, back again for the 10 times 30 seconds. So thanks for joining in for you guys. So first thing, I just wanted to introduce our special guests, our first special guest, the founder of PowerWatts and the performance director of the Israel Startup Nation professional cycling team, Paulo Saldanha. How you doing today, Paulo?
Hey, how's everybody? I'm great. How's everybody?
I'm sure everyone's really excited to see you here, Paulo. A lot of the people hear your name bounced around, but they don't know if you really exist or not. Now they can see that you do exist in reality.
I exist, and every week that goes by, I exist 1 kilo more.
Well, hopefully soon we'll be out of this quarantine business so that you can get out on the road with your bike a little bit more.
Yeah.
So the second special guest that I wanted to introduce to you guys, professional cyclist on the ISN team, also kind of a hometown hero as he's from Montreal, Quebec, and a lot of us are watching from Montreal today. Guillaume Boivin. Guillaume, how are you doing today?
Thanks. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I'm all right. Just got off the bike myself. Tried a little interval session, and yeah. No, it's you guys' turn to suffer. Good luck.
Well, thank you, Guillaume. And maybe we'll discuss a little bit the way you went about the 10 times 30 seconds. And if you think it's a good idea for our viewers at home or our riders at home to pursue it that way. And on our third special guest, professional rider, veteran of many Grand Tours, veterans of many classics, native from Australia, Rory Sutherland, who's joining us from Spain here today, I believe. How are you doing today, Rory?
Good. I'm good because I get to watch other people suffer for once.
Yeah.
Tables have turned.
Amazing. And there's actually a hometown connection too with Rory. Many of you riders are in Quebec, and actually Rory in 2012 won the Tour of Beauce. That's the oldest stage race in North America that's held here in Quebec. So Rory has a hometown connection to us here today. So we're really happy to have you, Rory, and we appreciate the time that you came to join us and talk to our riders.
No problem.
So great stuff, guys. So just before we get started, just to set the tone for what the workout's going to be, is we're going to have a 25-minute warm-up. In the warm-up, we're going to be progressively building up the power. We have a few surges up and down here and there. Then we're going to do 3 30-second efforts to try to prime your anaerobic systems, to try to prime your body for what's coming. And then our main exercise is 10 times 30 seconds. And during those 10 times 30 seconds, your score for the effort is going to be your average watts for each of the 30-second efforts added up with your highest score receiving 4 times more points. So that's going to lead to some interesting pacing strategies that you guys are going to might want to think about adopting. And that's where Guillaume and Rory can give us some advice based on their experience.
Don't ask Guillaume. Don't ask Guillaume about pacing strategies.
Well, maybe, how about we start with Guillaume? And I have something to show all the riders about Guillaume as well. So Guillaume, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with this particular workout?
Well, I'd start by saying do completely the opposite of the way I did the test. I only have like one speed and it's kind of full gas or full slow, I would say. So I just went for it as hard as I could, blew my engine really, really hard about after the fourth 30 seconds. And then I just had to crawl and suffer to the rest of the test, which was really horrible. So yeah, I would say try to be smart about it. I know you want to hit it out of the park straight away, but there's just so much pain on the back end of that 15 minutes that you kind of have to pace it a little bit. Even if I was to do it again, I would maybe even go under the number I'd like to target just to see where the legs are at, and then if I have more gas in on the back end, then give it a bit more there, but don't blow your engine at the starts because you're not going to recover.
So to help you guys understand what blow your engine at the start means for a professional cyclist of Guillaume's caliber, on my screen here, I'm sharing Guillaume's performance. And as you can see, on the third effort, for 30 seconds, Guillaume held over 900 watts. Now, that's some pretty serious power there, guys. And the thing that I'm amazed about, Guillaume, and you definitely can handle a lot of punishment, that's for sure. After doing the 914 watts, you didn't croak right away. You still did another one at 781 and then another one at 729. And then you really started to fade in the second half, like you mentioned there. So just truly incredible power outputs that Guillaume is capable of. However, you guys might not want to go for that 900 watts. I don't think that's going to allow you guys to score your best across all 10. So, Guillaume, if you were to redo it, what would you do about on that third one? Would you keep it up at around maybe 750 instead of going up to 900, or would you have started the first one harder and then backed off? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I would have done change maybe the recovery and maybe go a little easier on the third one because you got extra points, I believe, for your hardest 30 seconds. So you still want to do one a bit harder, but yeah, that was just a bit too much. And then the ones before, or maybe even the one after, do it a bit under because that's going to spike also your average if you do a super hard one. So try to balance the ones around that hard one a little bit. But yeah, I was just swinging for the fences and striked out, I guess.
Well, congratulations on taking that gutsy, risky move. Sometimes that's something you got to do in a race. You got to make the move. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But so really impressive power output there, Guillaume. So thanks for that insight. And how about you, Rory? I know, Rory, you're recovering from an injury right now. Those of you that might not know, Rory unfortunately suffered a broken leg earlier this year. So you maybe weren't able to get the level of power output that you normally would. But what was your experience doing this particular workout?
Yeah, it wasn't terrible. It was probably, it's the first time doing it is always strange because you have to gauge exactly, you have to try and gauge when to do them and how to do them. I think I went way too, I did probably the exact opposite of Guillaume. And that's kind of the rider that I am as well, is that I think about long-term. Guillaume's more of the classics rider, the one-day rider, whereas I seem to do better in the longer stage races, the Grand Tours, and have to think about the next day, think about the next effort that you put out. You can't just go all in and get rid of all the energy. So my first one was kind of a little too conservative, I think. And then most of my other ones were pretty similar all the way through. I really tried maybe on my fifth one to give it a really big hit to see how high I could go. And then, and also the last one's just an all out. And I think my fifth one and my last one were the highest, and the other ones, I don't know if you have my graph, but mine.
Yeah, I could show your graph in just a sec. I'm just going to tell everyone to get ready, guys. So sync your start of the workout. We're going to be starting off in just a moment here. So 3, 2, 1. And if you guys can sync your timer now, we're underway with the timer. If you're a little bit behind, that's okay. When we get to the different intervals in the warm-up here, you guys can always jump forward in your workout to catch up to where we are. Yeah, so we're underway on the warm-up, guys. And so, Rory, could you keep telling us a bit about your experience while the riders are warming up? And if those of you guys at home actually don't have power right now, the target on screen is 50%, but you guys could just ride at what feels maybe like a 3 or 4 out of 10 effort, just slowly building up the watts.
Yeah, so like I was saying, it's probably good to be a little bit conservative, and then I guess you'd say pick your battles. That some of them you need to remember that you need to take it a little bit easier, because you need to not use it as a recovery one, but one that you're not doing full on, you know? So a couple of them can be like, in my opinion, like 85, 90%ers and a couple of 100%ers, because then obviously if you calculate it all together, you've got the graph through there.
So here's your graph, Rory. You can, if you want to
Yeah.
take us through it a little bit, kind of like you mentioned, you went higher on the 5th one, but maybe started a bit too conservative. So here's the actual numbers themselves.
Yeah, so the first one's definitely too conservative, because I didn't know, I guess, the best way to do it. And for me, I found out being on, an indoor trainer it was better for me to overgear myself a little bit. And the first 3 of mine were in the saddle for most of them. And I realized that was not what I should be doing. So that was my mistake, which obviously lowered my average, which is not great. But then after that, you can see by the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th one, I figured it out a little bit. The 6th one, I tried to go a little bit easier. The 7th one, tried to go hard again. The 8th, I went easier to try and ramp it up those last 2. And then picked it up towards the end. But as you can see, by the last one being nearly the same as the 5th one, and one of my better ones, that I would probably went a little bit too conservative.
Okay,
So
very interesting. And did you, so you mentioned maybe doing one of them a little bit harder, one of them a little bit easier. You found that a very effective technique for you, physically and maybe a bit psychologically as well?
Psychologically, yeah, because doing 10 of these, doing 30 seconds flat out is too much. Mentally and physically, to do all of them full on, it's longer than you think.
Yeah.
But you know what? I got off. I had Paulo watching me on. We did it pretty much live as well, and he was chatting with me all the way through. And it was the same. It was try to be a little conservative, try to push through, but try and keep it controlled.
Wow, well, that's really interesting. An interesting piece of advice strategically, because there's mental aspects to the effort as well. And to know that you're not going to do all 10 of them all out is probably going to be very helpful for a lot of our riders at home if they do a bit of a fluctuating strategy like you described. Well, so thanks for those insights, Rory and Guillaume. Really interesting. Just before I move on to asking Paulo some stuff, did either of you guys find that this 10 times 30-second effort, did it remind you of an experience that you maybe had in a race environment or a race setting where you had to repeatedly accelerate, or do you feel like this would prepare you for a particular type of race?
For me, this is harder than any race that we're doing. So it prepares us for the races real well, because then it feels easy when we go racing compared to that.
So I hope everyone at home heard that, guys. Sometimes the PowerWatts workouts are harder than the races themselves. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, well, if you train harder than the races, then you should be all right in the races. But it's kind of like, for me, maybe if you have like a hard finish, like last 10 kilometers, almost in a sprint or something, can kind of replicate those kind of efforts, because it's not all a sprint finish isn't, depending on the course and all this, isn't always like steady power at all for 10K. It's most of the time it's like big surges, and then you can kind of float around a little bit, and then for me it kind of remembered me a little bit of that you're not going to hit your best your PBs in a finishing sprint, because the last 10 kilometers usually are flat out, but you're going to hit good.
All right,
power
guys. So let's
for-
just bring
for
the
15
watts up
minutes.
just for a minute here. We'll bring it up to maybe set to about 70% if you have access to power. Go up to 70%. If you don't have access to power, maybe just bring the RPE up to about 5 or 6, and just work on spinning the legs a little bit here so that you guys are warming up. We have several 1-minute little surges sprinkled into the warm up here just to get the legs going. So really interesting insights, Guillaume. I think a lot of riders, maybe they only watch the final kilometer of some of these races on TV and they don't realize the demands that are imposed upon you guys in the last, 10K or last 30 minutes of these races. So very interesting. Rory, how about yourself? Did it remind you of anything you've experienced before?
I think a lot of it. I had memories of doing criterium racing.
Okay.
When I lived in the States, and there was always these crits, and it's kind of that sprinting out of a corner, and then there's kind of a little bit of a recovery section, and then again, it's that repeated interval. And it's interesting because it's something that Paulo and I have spoken about training wise in the last few months, and it's something that I've missed is the repeatability, the hitting that high peaks from what the kind of racing that I have to do here in Europe a lot of the time is more longer and more steady. So which is why he's decided to give me some more of these kind of things, which I'm not quite happy about. But
it's for your own good, Rory. It's for your own good, I mentioned. It's because Paulo cares. He's got a big heart. That's
right.
why.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
We've talked about that actually, Rory, in the beginning. You actually have pretty good natural anaerobic capacity that has been trained out of you to some extent by actually the role that you played in some of the teams that you've been on. And what we wanted to try to do was to re-stimulate that, to bring some of that back, obviously still maintaining your aerobic capacity. And I think just touching on it from time to time is probably gonna go a long way to make you more versatile in the role you're gonna play. That's why we touched on it.
Oh, very interesting. Now that you mentioned that, Paulo, actually, could you tell us a little bit in general why you conceived of this workout and why you put it out to the ISN team? This idea that the 10 times 30 seconds, as opposed to only doing, say, looking at your 1 times 30 second best.
Yeah. So this is really just an exercise in trying to drain the anaerobic reserve. But that's what we're trying to do. Oftentimes in a race, you're a little bit glycogen depleted by 4 or 5 hours into it, and you come up upon the last 30, 40 minutes, and things start to really heat up. And when things heat up, you start depleting even more, and you end up losing all the bullets in your chamber if you haven't trained that into you. So what this exercise is really meant to do is to stimulate the anaerobic reserve efforts enough times so that you're used to that, your body adapts to it by putting more bullets in the chamber, so that when those circumstances do come up during a race, the athletes are ready for it. And it's also a great fitness builder as a workout. And the last piece is that it actually forces you to think, because we're not saying to you, go 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off. We're saying to you, give me 10 of them, give me 1 of them all out so we keep you honest. And then what are you going to do with the others? Some people try 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 2 of them, then get a bigger rest and try a harder one. Other people, like Guillaume, went all out on the 3rd one and see if they could survive. Rory paced himself more along there. So it's kind of interesting to see the different mentalities and philosophies on how they handle the strategy.
And so in general, say we know that maybe Guillaume is a little bit more of an anaerobic sprint-oriented rider, and Rory maybe a little bit more oriented to endurance through his years of training. So like, say if somebody at home, say if they view themselves as more of an anaerobically dominant athlete, someone who's got that really good, 30-second, 1-minute effort, how would they pace themselves on this exercise versus somebody who knows their strength is the ability to go all day, but not necessarily hit the very high peaks? Like, how would they address this in terms of their pacing strategy?
I think they should be conservative, because what happens is when you have a good sprint capacity and you have 1 good bullet in your chamber, if you use that maximally, it will, because you can recruit so deeply those fibers, it will really wreck you. So as a sprinter, you actually have to be really careful during this exercise, because you can actually access enough of those fibers to completely destroy your metabolism in your legs, and it'll be really hard to recover from that. And in a sense, that's kind of what Guillaume did physiologically. Whereas Rory, even though he might go one all out, because he doesn't access as deeply, he's not more of a Hulara kind of rider, he's hurt less by it. So he's probably a little bit more stable. So I would say as a sprinter, you have to be careful on the maximal one, especially not to overdo it. And if you don't have a lot of stamina, then I would probably do the harder effort early rather than later, or else you might have too much accumulated fatigue to be able to access that for the finish.
So keep in mind, everybody, that your best effort today, your best 30 seconds, is worth 4 times more points than all of the other ones. So if you are going to submit your files, and we'll be able to calculate your scores for you, it's important to consider that you do want to go quite hard on one of them. And Paulo's suggesting to possibly do it earlier on for the anaerobically oriented riders. But let's try not to pull a Guillaume Boivin and totally destroy yourself too early. And I could see some riders riding. I know some of you at home have that capacity to destroy yourself in a single 30-second effort. So even be conservative when you go to that high end on the earlier one, kind of like Paulo suggested. Those of you guys that are more endurance oriented, you perhaps don't have to hold yourself back as much on each of the individual reps, because you can't access dip as deep into the reserve on each particular rep. So you don't have to be as conservative, but the challenge there is to make sure that you actually do hit a high end. Paulo, do you have any suggestions for an endurance rider, how they can get the most out of themselves on a single 30-second effort?
Well, I tried it. I did this last week, and I'm more of an endurance guy, or used to be anyway.
Ironman triathlete, folks. Endurance man.
I'm an endurance guy now when it comes to red wine. But everything else is out the window. And I've actually tried a different strategy. I tried to build up 3. So I did 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 3 of them, building each one. And then I had a really nice big break, and I hit the 4th one pretty hard. And I tried that pattern. It actually worked pretty well for me. So that's one strategy. Or you can try and just say, the key here is, what's the highest percentage of your 30 seconds that you can hold as consistently as possible? For the aerobic athletes, they're going to have to focus on that a little bit. So, for them, it's probably somewhere, I don't know if anybody knows their best 30 seconds, but you have to be careful getting too close to your best 30 seconds ever. It could be 80 or 90, and then maybe even 95 as your best one. And try and play with that. Try and play with the envelope of 80 to 95% of your best 30 seconds, so that and try to build them up a teeny bit so that you don't completely destroy yourself right in the beginning.
So there you go, guys. Some strategies based on the type of rider you are. As you guys know, at PowerWatts, we often try to adjust the workouts using things like targeting your 10-second best or your 30-second best instead of using just your 20-minute power, your FTP, so that we could try to personalize the training a little bit more to you. So today it's up to you to personalize the effort based on what type of rider that you think you are. So just so you guys know, we're almost done the warm-up here. We have another little pace increase. We're going to be going to 90% for a minute. And if you guys haven't brought yourselves to a higher cadence yet, if you haven't gone over 100 RPM, now's a good time. If you haven't gotten out of the saddle yet, you might want to get out of the saddle at some point during this 1 minute or the last 1 minute, just to make sure that all the different pedaling techniques are warmed up. After this minute at 90%, we're going to go down to 80% for 2 minutes. Those of you guys that don't have power at home, at this point, the 80% is going to be a little bit more challenging. So when we go down to the 80%, hold yourself at maybe a 7 out of 10 effort. And then the final minute of the warm-up, we're going to go to 100%. But this is just the general warm-up, guys. After this, we also have a specific warm-up where we're going to do 3 30-second surges to prepare you guys for the 10 30 seconds. So, Paulo, this is a longer than normal warm-up. This is going to be about 25 minutes total warm-up. Why do we have a longer warm-up like this for this kind of exercise?
Just before I answer that question, I just got a text message from Dan Martin saying, "How come Rory's there watching and doing commentating and I'm not?" Not good.
Well, maybe we'll invite Dan Martin on next time.
We'll see if he behaves. Maybe. Look, I mean, different types and styles of events require different lengths of warm-ups. Obviously, we all know that as we increase muscle temperature, that we also increase the rate of sort of enzymatic reactions. We also know that as a muscle increases its temperature, it has a significantly positive effect on the power and the velocity of the contraction of that muscle. So generally, we want to warm. It's like starting a car. You never floor the accelerator right when you start it. You generally warm up the car a little bit. When the oil becomes more viscous, things glide a little bit better. Reactions happen a little bit faster. That's kind of one of the rationales for the warm up. But the reason that this one's a little bit longer is because, first of all, I want to make sure we get enough core temperature increases and muscle temperature increases to optimize the performance. Aerobically, we're warming that part up. Right now, they're on the higher end aerobic, I think. And once we get to the secondary warm up, we're going to try and prime the anaerobic system a little bit. That's going to do two things. It's going to activate neuromuscularly and some of those fast fibers. And it's also going to provide people with a sense of what the intensity feels like so that they can reference off of that to use as an effort to do in the main set.
Okay, great. So yeah, the 3 times 30 seconds, we're going to be building up to a 150% watts, which could be that reference point you're talking about. And people can determine if that's a good place to start, if it's too high, if it's too low, to adjust their efforts after this longer warm up. All right, guys, so we're coming up to the last minute of our general warm up. So we're going to go up to 100% watts for the next minute. If you don't have watts at home, let's bring it to like an 8.5 out of 10 effort. You guys can play around a little bit with body position, with cadence to feel what works best for you while we're riding at 100%. And then we got a 3.5 minute recovery period before we do our 3 times 30-second efforts. So excellent work thus far on the warm-up here, guys. So just think about where you're feeling it in the legs, if you're feeling it anywhere. If not, if you're not feeling any discomfort in your legs yet, I do suggest maybe going a touch above 100% to try to get some of that initial discomfort out of the way now. And then during that 3.5 minute recovery period, your body will do something called super compensation. It'll mobilize energy. It'll mobilize resources to allow you guys to perform better on the 10 times 30 seconds. Okay, so we got 10 more seconds, guys. Just push a little bit harder, get a little bit of discomfort, early discomfort out of the way here, and then we're going to have a 3.5 minute recovery period. So 3, 2, 1, and back it off. All right, guys. So we got 3.5 minutes of recovery before we do our 3 times 30-second efforts. So Rory, I just wanted to ask you a question. You mentioned that you did the first few sitting and then you chose to do standing afterwards. What would you suggest as advice to our riders at home in terms of body position and cadence for this type of exercise?
Some of it is just whatever goes, it's like, I think everyone's got to find their happy, well, shouldn't call it a happy place because it's not so happy, but just find what works for them. I think it's kind of like testing out each way. The issue that I've been having with, after breaking my leg, 4 months ago, it's still, I'm still rebuilding everything, and being out of the saddle sprinting is not really something that I can do right now, which is my excuse for not doing such a good testing.
Every good cyclist has their excuse lined up ahead of time.
You have to. But no, like what I figured out was if I overgeared basically to start with, so put it in a bigger gear, a good couple of seconds before, because obviously if you start ramping it up like you would in a PowerWatts in the studio, if you haven't got to the point that you need to be at before the timer starts, you're already playing catch up. Your average is already lower. So you need to hit that first, the start of it, at that number, or at that effort, and then hold on for dear life and see if you can maintain it.
Well, that's a very important point, to make sure that you start a couple seconds early, so you're already at that high end when the 30 seconds starts. So great advice, Rory. So thanks for that input. Guillaume, how about yourself? How did you approach the 30-second efforts? Did you do all of them standing? Did you do sitting, high cadence, a bit of both?
Yeah, all of them standing. Yeah, you get quite a bit more power, which also made me realize how much our arms actually work when we do such a high intensity effort. I couldn't feel my arms by the end of the 15 minutes. I had to like
Wow.
shake them out. So yeah, and if I was to do it again, I would probably try for as long as I can to keep a bit of a higher cadence, because the more tired you get, you're less efficient, and you kind of go towards a bigger gear just because you're all over the place, and you're less efficient. And then but if you start with it, you make maybe a bit more muscle damage on a higher gear, so you're gonna get there eventually, but maybe the first 2-3, try to maybe keep a bit of a higher cadence, so you save it for when you really need it by the end.
Ah, there you go. So great idea. So guys, don't go try the first one, the second one maybe at a slightly higher than normal cadence, whether you're standing or sitting, and that'll save some of those bigger gears for later. So we got our first 30-second acceleration coming up here, guys. We're going to do 30 seconds at 110%. I encourage you to do it using whatever technique that you want, but don't go much higher than 110. We're still in the process of warming up here. Okay, guys, so let's bring the effort up. Bring it up to 110%. And see where you go naturally. Do you want to get out of the saddle? Do you want to go to 100 RPM? Do you want to sit at 80 RPM? Or do you want to stand through the entire duration of the 30 seconds? So just feel what comes naturally to you, and then maybe we'll adjust your technique on the second one and the third one to see. So we just got a couple more seconds. I want everyone to practice going all the way to the end. Don't slow down early here, okay? So all the way, 3, 2, 1, and let's back it off. When we get to the crux of the workout, when you guys hear that beep, you're going to want to back off. And just like Rory mentioned, you got to start it a bit early. We don't want to finish it early. We also got to continue all the way to the end of the 30 seconds. Because if you back off 3 seconds early, you can lose a very high percentage of your average on the watts. So make sure that you go all the way. And it's good time to set the tone now in our specific warm-up. So for the second rep here, guys, we're going up by 20%. I want you to reflect on how you did the first one. And now on the second one, try something different. So if you're sitting, try standing. Or if you're sitting high cadence, try sitting low cadence, just to experience the difference. It is 20% watts higher, so the level of effort is going to be a little bit more. And those of you guys at home without power, maybe let's look at an 8 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 effort here for this 30 seconds. Maybe 9 out of 10 near the end of the 30 seconds. Okay, so 3, 2, 1, and let's pick it up, guys. So try a slightly different strategy. Go to that 130%. This is trying to get the kinks out of the muscles here. Lubricate the system so that you guys are ready to put out good efforts on the 10 times 30 seconds. And if anyone's wondering, after we do these 3 30-second efforts, you have a 5-minute recovery period. So you will have quite a bit of time to unload your body if you're in a little bit of discomfort now. All right, guys. So 3, 2, 1, and back it off. Okay, so just think about your experience from the first rep, your experience from the second rep. It'll probably give you a pretty good idea of how you're going to want to approach this third one. Now the power is pretty high. We're going to 150% watts. So this one, try to use the strategy that comes most natural to you, taking Guillaume's advice to not go into too hard of a gear right away. If you're sitting or standing, use a slightly higher than normal cadence for this one. And let's practice Rory's suggestion of starting it a little bit early. So when you guys hear the beep, the 3, 2, 1 beep, I want you to give it that kick 1 or 2 seconds before the 150% starts, so your watts are already up there right at the beginning of this 30-second effort. Okay, so everyone bring up your momentum a little bit. Go to 50, 60% watts. Not too hard of a gear, so you can give a quick kick to start it off. And we're going in 10 seconds, guys. After this, 5-minute recovery before we do our 10 times 30-second effort. So 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Let's pick it up, guys. And those of you without power, by the end of this 30 seconds, you want to be at maybe a 9 out of 10 effort, 9.5 maybe if you're more endurance oriented. Okay, so keep that power up. Keep that good pressure on the feet throughout. So we got 10 seconds to go. And remember, I want you guys to go all the way to the end of the 30 seconds. Let's not back off early. So let's keep it going. 3, 2, 1, and back it off, guys. All right. So 5 minutes of recovery. So we did 3 efforts, 110, 130, 150. Where do you think you should start on our first 10 times 30-second rep? You might choose to start at 150%. You might choose a little higher. You might choose a little lower. So Paulo, what would you say to somebody at home right now who's thinking to themselves, holy cow, I just did 30 seconds at 150% and I feel smoked? What would you advise them for this 10 times 30 seconds coming up?
Go home.
Yeah.
No. Probably the strategy I mentioned before to start more conservatively, sometimes it takes a few efforts to open up the legs. So, it's not always in the warm-up that you feel that. Sometimes, the pros, I've gone as far as 2 hours of warm-up because they often have an overlap of fatigue because they do a lot of hours and a lot of training. One day leading into the next, you start your ride, and sometimes you need up to 2 hours of warming up to open up the legs a little bit and get rid of some of those waste metabolites in your legs and feel better, So if you really don't feel good in the warm-up, I suggest strongly you start conservatively for sure.
And what would you say to the person that found the 150% to be a piece of cake?
Then you're going to have to feel your way through the next few. I would still start a touch conservative, maybe at 160, 170, see where that takes you. Remember, it may feel good for 30 seconds, but it will be death at 6, 7, and 8 if you're too close to your limit on the way through this. Okay, folks? So I still suggest just a touch conservative, even if it's only for your first 1 or 2. But even Guillaume, I think, did his maximal one on the third.
On the third, yep.
Very rare to see somebody go full gas, although I believe Tom might have done that. One of the guys went full gas on the first one,
So yeah, interestingly to that point, if we look at the endurance-oriented riders that are in the top 3, like Patrick, James Piccoli, Dan Martin, these guys hit their peak efforts actually on the second or the third one.
Right.
And the more anaerobically oriented guys, so Guillaume hit his peak on the third one, but Rito and Tom, the guys who are in first and second place right now on the event for the overall power, they hit their highest one on the first one.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And, the interesting statistics here are, guys, I don't know if we have time to go here. We have 2 minutes, but just a quick anecdote. We have a lot of data on riders in the classic races, especially when they're bumpy. We looked at the numbers, and this particular workout is really based off of taking what an elite professional rider does in the last hour of a classics race and examining that to look at the variability of the efforts. And so what we did with this workout is this has a high variability index, about 1.4, 1.45, which is very variable. In fact, the guys who do these classics races, usually the last 40 minutes are about 1.1, 1.2, but they're averaging over 5 to 5.5 watts per kilo. This particular exercise in a 15-minute window, relatively fresh for most people, is going to result for the riders, the professional riders, in 6 to 6.5 watts per kilo with a variability index of 1.4, 1.5. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see how everybody else compares. And everybody's going to be very, very variable, but I'm curious to see if the aerobic athletes tend to be less variable and the anaerobic athletes tend to be more variable.
And we've actually seen in the results so far, we've seen both conditions actually, where endurance athletes ended up being more variable or less variable. Out of everybody on the team, interestingly, so Tom, who's currently in the lead on the powerhouse, he was the most steady. He had the smallest deviation between all of his efforts, and his first one was the highest, but he obviously didn't go full tilt because he was able to stay pretty consistently close to that for all the remainder. Okay, guys, so we got 30 seconds here before we're going to do our 1 minute lead up period to the first 10 times 30 seconds. So there's a 1 minute lead up period to allow you guys to build up a little bit of momentum. So I don't suggest during the rest periods especially on an indoor bike, that you stop pedaling completely. You want to keep some momentum, and that's going to facilitate your acceleration. If your rear wheel has a little bit of speed, you'll be able to kick up a little bit more effectively your power. Okay, so now we're in the 1 minute lead up period to our first one. So 10 times 30 seconds. On screen, you could see just above me, it tells you the rep that's coming up. And that way, it'll be easier for you guys at home to track the rep numbers. Oftentimes, after you've done 4 or 5 of these, you just completely forget the number of repetitions that you're at. So you could just take a quick peek on the screen. And I'll also call out what rep number we're on to help you guys follow along. Now, so we're going in 30 seconds, guys. So think back to all the advice from Rory, the advice from Paulo, the advice from Guillaume, how you might want to approach this first one. And we're going to be going in 20 seconds. So bring your watts up a bit. Don't be in too low of a cadence. Even if you're going to stand, give a quick acceleration, and then adjust the gears to sustain it. So rep number 1, guys, this is a really interesting one. How's everyone going to start out? So get ready, get that momentum, get the gears ready. 5, 4, 3. Okay, kick it now. 2, 1, and here we go. Rep number 1, 30 seconds. You want to be working hard here, but you don't want to be at your limit by the end of it. So great efforts thus far. We could see some of you guys standing, some of you guys sitting. We got some high cadence. I could see J-Train, Big Nick, Mean Gene working hard. Isa working hard. Keep that up, Isa. A couple more seconds. Way to be, Jacques. Keep it up, Samtastic. We got the Master of Pain working hard. All right, and back it off, guys. 1 minute recovery. Woo! Rep number 1, done. Okay.
That didn't look hard at all for Luke.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess he's conserving his energy. So great first rep, guys. So now you just got to do a quick computation in your head. Is rep number 2, are you going to do it at the same level of effort? Are you going to do it at a higher level of effort? Maybe you're going to use the approach that Rory suggested earlier, 1 harder rep, 1 earlier rep. So you're going to want to try to make that decision during this recovery period here. But something that's very important on every rep that I want you guys to do, make sure you start it quick. Don't start that rep delayed. Start it 1 or 2 seconds early. Even if you're really fatigued, give that quick acceleration off the start, because in order to succeed on the rep, you have to get that acceleration done. So we're starting in 10 seconds, guys. So get a little bit of momentum, get your gears ready, and here we go. 3, 2, 1, and kick it down into the pedals. Rep number 2. Good way to be, Melody. Great start. Keep it up, Jacques. Guillaume looking good. Great standing cadence there, Guillaume. Super job, Cyril. Looks like you're down in the drops. Super arrow position. Keep it up, the Butcher. We got 10 more seconds, guys. Remember to go all the way to the end to get every watt possible out of yourself here. So 3, 2, 1, and back it off. So 2 reps are done. All right, guys. So what you might notice happens over the course of the 30 seconds, you start it feeling okay, but then as it goes, your breathing starts to become very rapid. Your breathing rate becomes very rapid, or you might get real tight in the shoulders. You might get real tight in the arms, like Guillaume was mentioning. So during the rest periods, make sure you unload your body, relax the face, neck, shoulders, elbows, try to regain your breathing rhythm. And then once you've established that, you can get some momentum going before the next rep. All right, so we're going to go in 20 seconds, guys. And this one, rep number 3, remember, this is where Guillaume went all out, so you might choose to go a little bit harder on this one, but not necessarily full gas. Okay, so here we go, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and kick it. So great efforts, guys. Keep up that focus. Mean Gene's got the great cadence. Big Nick doing it via muscle strength here. Way to be, Big Nick. Keep it up, J-Train out of the saddle, driving those knees. Keep it up, guys. Way to be, Jacques. Way to be, Guillaume. Super job, fantastic. All right, and back it off, guys. So rep number 3 is done. So Rory, 3 reps are done. Do you have any final advice that you want to give to these guys?
I'd say try a little bit of a different strategy maybe for the next one. So try maybe the guys that are spinning a lot to try a little bit of a bigger gear. and I noticed a few people not starting before the actual point as well. So maybe just really grab the gear that you need and get ready for that. Get ready for it a second before. And remember, you can go a lot harder than you think you can. So hang on to it. Hang on to it all the way through.
Well, thanks so much for the advice, Rory, and thanks for joining us. You're welcome to go if you need to go at any point. Thank you so much for the advice that you've given up to this point.
I want to see more pain. So.
You want to see more pain? All right, guys, so we're going in 10 seconds. So let's take Rory's advice. Change something up on this one. It might be something big, might be something small, but make a little change. So here we go. 3, 2, 1, and kick it down. Rep number 4. We're still in the first half of this effort, guys, so you want to be working really hard, but you want to know you got a bit left for what's coming. Keep it up, Isa. Keep working hard. Well done. Well done, Master Payne. Keep it up, Cyril. Well done, Melody. Great standing position there. Keep it up, the Butcher, trying a seated effort. Way to mix it up, the Butcher. So 3, 2, 1, and back it off. Well done, guys. Super job. So we're about to do the 5th rep. So Guillaume, what do you suggest to the riders at this point? Now everyone's hurting a little bit. Do you have any words of wisdom for them?
Yeah, I'd say when you guys stand up in those really high and like power efforts, really use your arms as like leverage to produce the power. It's not only about your legs. It's at that point for the last 5, 6, use your whole body to produce the power, not only your legs.
Oh, fantastic. So there you goes, guys. Put your whole body into it. Get a good grip of those handlebars. Keep some tension in the hand so that you can get your full weight and full strength down into those pedals to maximize your results. So we're going in 10 seconds, guys. So start to build up a little bit of momentum again. So next one, everyone, a quick start. Okay, rep number 5. We're going in 3, 2, 1. All right, and go. Quick starts, guys. Quick starts. Get the leg speed going. As the difficulty accumulates over the course of this 30 seconds, if you are standing up, even if you're sitting, you can use Guillaume's advice. Get that whole body working. Squeeze those handlebars a little bit tighter. Get the upper body to assist. So keep it up, guys. Keep it up, Samtastic. Way to be the Butcher. Well done, Mean Gene. Great cadence, Mean Gene. All the way, guys. 3, 2, 1, and back it off. Fantastic. So rep number 5 is done. So Paulo, I'm sure a lot of people at home are thinking, holy cow, I've done 5. How am I going to do another 5 of these? What would you suggest to them?
Focus on your breathing, super easy gear in recovery, and just think of 1 at a time. Don't think of 5. Think of 1 at a time. Get through each 30 seconds, 10 seconds at a time if you need to. And relax your face, as Coach Toscas tells you.
So that's great advice, guys. Take that 30 seconds and break it up into maybe a 10-second acceleration phase, a 10-second sustaining phase, and a 10-second final push stage. So that way you don't have to focus for the whole 30 seconds. It's just 10-second chunks. Maybe that'll make it more manageable. So thanks so much for that, Paulo. So let's try to implement that one now, guys. So we're going in 10 seconds. So start going to slightly harder gear so you're ready to accelerate. And we're going with rep number 6 in 3, 2, 1, and let's go, guys. So let's hit the acceleration phase here for the first few seconds. Keep building that watts, building the cadence. It'll take 10, 15 seconds for your speed to settle in, and then you might have to adjust the gear to sustain it till the end. All right, guys, so keep up that effort. Great effort, Master of Pain. Working really hard. Super job, Guillaume. Keep working that position, Guillaume. Great job. Keep driving those knees, J-Train. Well done, Big Nick. Keep it up, the Butcher. Mean Gene in the arrow position. Wow, you'd be going really fast if you're outdoors right now. All right, guys, and back it off. So 1 minute of recovery. So rep number 6 is done. So now we should probably come back to the advice of Rory and potentially at this point, maybe try something a little bit different. Not necessarily for the entire 30 seconds, but maybe try a different acceleration tactic. Maybe try a different position. For example, if you're standing all the way, you could start by standing in the drops and start by standing on the hoods and then switch your position into the drops for the second half of the 30 seconds. Experiment to make sure that you get the most out of yourself. So next one is going in 20 seconds. So relax the face, neck, shoulders, elbows here. Give a nice full exhalation to try to prepare your breathing for what's coming. And now start to build a bit of a rhythm to get going for our rep number 7. And we have a special guest. Rory's brought in a special guest here. Rory's little girl is there, so let's do well for her. So 3, 2, 1, and here we go, guys. Rep number 7. Let's bring that effort up. Good, great acceleration, Guillaume. Keep it up, Jacques. Well done, Melody. Great standing position. Mean Gene really working the cadence. Big Nick working the big gear. Well done, J-Train. Keep it up, Cyril. Master Pain out of the saddle. Fantastic work, guys. And those of you that I can't see, I'm sure you're all working really hard. So keep going. Keep going. Keep going. And let's back it off. 1 minute. All right. We got 3 reps to go. So, Rory, do you have any advice for us on our last 3 reps here?
What's your advice?
What is that?
What are they doing? Yeah, my daughter has advice. She says to go harder.
Oh!
When I broke my leg and someone told her that I broke my leg, she's like, well, just cut it off. He's got another one. So she's quite subtle. No, but it looks like everyone's really giving it, as long as these last 3 are obviously very important. So I'd personally choose maybe one of them not to go as hard. Maybe to think about that last one and the second last one. So maybe this one go pretty much full on, and then one a little bit easier, and then the last one there's nothing else to do but full.
All right, guys. So let's get the momentum going. Maybe you'll want to follow Rory's advice on this one. Go hard, but not quite all out, or go hard on this one and then a bit easier on rep number 9. But let's give it a start now, guys. Get it started. Get it started. Get those watts up. Really work that power output. We got great efforts from everybody here. And when it really starts to hurt, guys, when you have that urge to slow down, I want everyone to increase their cadence. If you want to slow down right now, pedal faster. Pedal faster, giving that little surge sometimes activates muscle fibers you haven't hit yet. All the way, guys. 3, 2, 1, and back it off. Fantastic work. So we got 2 reps left. So perhaps you're planning on backing off a little bit on this rep and hitting the last one really hard, or maybe you're going to try to hit the last 2, both of them really hard. Oftentimes, the 9th rep or the second to last rep is the hardest one. You'll figure something out to succeed on that final rep. So you got to convince yourself to really give it on rep number 9. So we're almost there, guys. You have 8 reps behind you. We've had some really good performances thus far. So let's take it all the way to the finish. Despite the fatigue you might be accumulating, I want you guys to start the reps quick with a quick and powerful acceleration. Then if you choose to back off a smidge on rep number 9, no problem. And then you come back on hard on rep 10, or maybe you're going to go hard all the way on 9 and hard all the way on 10. So make your choice, guys. We're going in a few seconds, but accelerate hard regardless. We're going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's go, guys. Rep number 9. Rep number 9. Way to be Isa. Way to be Melody. So we got Mean Gene, we got Big Nick, we got J-Train all working really hard. The Master Pain, Cyril, great efforts, guys. Super job, Guillaume. All the way, guys. And remember that trick. When you want to slow down, increase the cadence, pedal a little bit faster. All the way. We can't slow down early here. Every second counts. 3, 2, 1, and back it off. We got 1 rep to go. Paulo, what do you have to say to everybody before the final rep? Unmute your mic, Paulo.
Hopefully there's some energy left in the tank, folks. If you haven't done your maximal one, this is the one to leave everything on the table here. Just full gas from the beginning, okay, folks? So make sure you're in a super light gear now. Spinning. Flush the legs, get the blood flow going. And on this last one, it's really just full gas, whatever you got left.
All right, guys. So when Paulo talks, you got to listen. So let's get ready to give a full effort on this one. I think pretty much now everyone knows the gearing strategy and body position strategy that works best. So stick to it and just put in a little bit more effort right at the start of the 30 seconds and right all the way till the end of the 30 seconds. So here we go, guys. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and final effort. Kick it hard, guys. Kick it hard. I want everyone digging a little deeper on this one. Get more force, get more strength, get more cadence into those pedals. Good way to be, guys. Keep it up, Isaac. Keep it up, Big Nick. Keep it up, J-Train. Well done, Mean Gene. Keep that cadence going. Way to be, Guillaume. Keep it up, Cyril, all the way to the end. Everyone, pedal faster now in the gear you're in. Pedal faster so you don't slow down. Go, go, go. 3, 2, 1. And wow, that is it. Unbelievable. The 10 times 30 seconds is done. I can see some of you guys, maybe your clocks weren't perfectly timed and you're still going for it. So if you're in the process of going for it, guys, and this is number 10, keep putting out that big effort. Wow. So congratulations to everybody at home. We got the 10 times 30-second efforts done. So, Guillaume, you got to watch this whole thing. What do you think about what you saw here today?
Well, it seems like pros suffer just as much as anybody else. So, yeah, good job, everyone. I'm sure you'll need a few more minutes before you're back to normal. But, yeah, good work. And, yeah, hope you enjoyed it, I guess.
Well, thank you very much, Guillaume. I think some people might need a few days to feel like they're back to normal after this 10 times 30 seconds. So Rory, what do you think about what you saw here today on these 10 times 30-second efforts?
I think it's like Guillaume said, it's like we heard just as much as what you guys did. I think that's the beauty of being able to do the same kind of test as what the professionals do is that everyone has to do it in their maximum. So how you're feeling now, it doesn't matter whether you're an amateur, whether this is your lunch break, whether it's the end of the day, you're on vacation, it hurts just as much for us. Trust me, I was sweating everywhere and swearing at Paulo under my breath.
Well, way to be, guys. And Paulo, what do you think about what you saw here today? Do you think the workout got the job done based on your purpose of the training here today?
Yeah, it looked like a little bit of carnage out there, which is kind of what you expect. But I didn't really see anybody completely blow up. So that's a good thing. It must mean that people were pacing themselves anaerobically pretty well. And it's not always an easy thing to do, to understand how to pace yourself anaerobically. So good job to y'all.
Well, way to be, guys. Thank you very much to Paulo, Guillaume, and Rory for joining in and giving us some expert advice. I think it was really helpful for everybody at home to help you guys get the most out of yourselves. So with the time that's left, I just want to mention that if you guys want to participate in finding out what your score is, we're going to have 2 different categories. One category for who has the highest average watts across the efforts, with that highest effort being worth 4 times more points. And we have a category for the highest watts per kilo. So even if you're a smaller rider, you can take advantage of the watt per kilo classification. If you guys want to participate in that, you can download your power file for this workout. If your at-home trainer is connected to Strava, or if it's connected to Garmin Connect, or if it's connected to Training Peaks, you guys can download that file, and then you can email it directly to me, mark.toscas@powerwatts.com, and I'm going to compute the results for you guys in the same way that we've been computing the results for all the riders on the ISN team. And if you send in your results, you can I'll definitely let you know what your score is. I'll let you know how you scored relative to your favorite rider on the ISN team. And if you're interested in knowing how you scored relative to other riders that are not professional cyclists that did this, let me know, and I'd be happy to share your results amongst other people. But that's only going to be for those of you that want to have your results shared. If you don't want your results shared, but you want to know your score, send in your file anyways, and I'd be really happy to compute it for you. And
Mark?
Even if you're not going to participate in the power, or you don't have a power meter, the fitness that you guys gained today is going to really help take your anaerobic repeatability to another level. If you give yourself a couple days to recoup from this effort, you're definitely going to feel your anaerobic system has expanded a little bit. So we got 1 minute to go. So Paulo, do you have any other words of advice that you'd like to share with everybody?
Yeah, I was just going to say that you're going to have a lot of results here, Mark. And if maybe just shoot me a message afterwards, because if you find that any of them have numbers that are close or maybe even better than Rory or Guillaume, let me know, because it might be time for me to renegotiate their contracts.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll definitely keep that in mind, Paulo. Maybe we'll be recruiting one of the riders at home to be the next classic sprinter on the Israel Startup Nation professional cycling team.
My money's on Cyril or Nick.
Oh, yeah. So thanks again to everyone for joining. Thanks so much to our special guests, Guillaume Boivin and Rory Sutherland of the ISN Professional Cycling Team. Thanks so much to Paulo Saldanha, founder of PowerWatts, performance director of the Israel Startup Nation team. And I've been your host, Coach Mark, and I really appreciate the time that you guys spent with us today.
Thanks, Mark.
Hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Hey, Paulo, Nick wants to do a time trial.